9 expert hikers were settling in for the night on a frozen mountainside when something terrified them enough to slash open their own tent and run barefoot into the darkness. Search teams were stunned, investigators were baffled, and the world has been questioning it for more than 60 years. What could force trained mountaineers into a fatal sprint through sub-zero snow? This is the mystery of the Dyatlov Pass incident. The story begins in late January of 1959, when 9 skilled hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set off into the icy wilderness of the northern Ural Mountains. They were young, confident, and incredibly experienced, the kind of people who thrived where others would freeze. Led by Igor Dyatlov, a determined and respected expedition leader, the group pushed farther into the remote, snow-covered world of Kholat-Syakhl, a mountain whose name ominously translates to the Mountain of the Dead, and although none of them knew it, something was waiting for them out there. Day by day, the hikers documented everything with photographs and journals, smiling faces, joking moments, and a strong team spirit that carried them into the brutal wind and deep snow. Even as conditions grew harsher and the temperature dropped to an unforgiving cold, there was never a hint of fear. They were doing what they loved, challenging nature and pushing their limits. But even the strongest spirits can be tested by forces they never expect. By February 1st, the weather turned brutal. A raging storm swept across the mountains, burying their planned route. Still determined, the group pitched their tent on an exposed slope of Kholat-Syakhl. Snow battered the canvas, the wind screamed outside, and darkness closed in around them. The world outside that tent was a frozen void, silent, merciless, and stretching endlessly in every direction. None of them could have imagined that these would be their last moments of warmth. Something, no one knows what, was about to shatter the calm. Sometime deep in the night, the hikers did something unthinkable. They cut their way out of the tent from the inside. Not opened it, not unzipped it, slashed it open. They ran into the storm without their boots, without their heavy coats, without even basic survival gear. These were people who knew the mountains intimately, people who understood that stepping outside like this was a death sentence. So whatever caused them to flee, it must have been more terrifying than the freezing night itself. Search teams would later discover that the footprints leading away from the tent were strangely orderly. Not the desperate stampede you'd expect from people running for their lives, but almost as if they walked with purpose, or confusion, or maybe even under some kind of unseen pressure. And somewhere in that icy darkness, the hikers became separated, swallowed by the snowstorm. Something was driving them away, but the mountain wasn't about to let them go. The first bodies were found beneath a tall cedar tree nearly a mile from the tent. 2 hikers lay in the snow, wearing only underwear, as if they'd scrambled to survive but never stood a chance. The tree branches above them were broken, suggesting they had tried to climb desperately, perhaps searching for the tent, or for something else hiding in the dark. But the truth only got stranger. Between the cedar and the tent, 3 more hikers were discovered, each one appearing to have collapsed while trying to crawl back uphill. They were dressed only slightly better, but nowhere near enough to survive the sub-zero cold. Yet the worst was still waiting. Months later, under several feet of snow, the remaining 4 hikers were found in a ravine. These bodies told a different story, one far more disturbing. Some had massive chest fractures, the kind of trauma a car crash might cause. One had a crushed skull, and another was missing her tongue and eyes. Yet there were no external wounds, no signs of a struggle, and no evidence of an attacker. It was as if something powerful and invisible had struck them. To this day, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries in history.